The idea was to spread the message that smoking is a killer, responsible for around 90% of lung cancer cases and 80% of chronic bronchitis and emphysema. Shoppers at Charlestown Square watched the Falcons basketball team go through fitness tests, followed by members of Newcastle media. Smokers have higher heart and pulse rates after exercise. Their aerobic capacity is lower, taking longer to recover than their non-smoking counterparts. Odds are these energetic Charlestown gym members were non-smokers. But the good news is that most of this is reversible once the habit is quit. It took only one test to put this smoker onto the pathway to clean living. The carbon monoxide level in my lungs should ideally have been 0. Rebecca Skinner, NBN News.
At Ellamorvale School, more than $1 million has been spent on buildings and grounds for its 500 students and staff. The school fought hard to have demountable buildings replaced by permanent classrooms. The school's other buildings were renovated, and additions include landscaping, car parks and an undercover walk to the new hall. Preschoolers and infants welcomed Dr Metherell with a song. The Minister spoke about his desire to unite parents, teachers and pupils for the challenges and demands of the future. He invited the school captains to open the extensions. Dr Metherell's other official duty in the Hunter today was to open the plant mechanics and heavy vehicle complex here at Kurri TAFE College. The Minister stressed that if industry wants an improvement in education and training to help the country to be more competitive internationally, it must be prepared to foot the bill. The $5.5 million wing represents the driving force of the dramatic changes needed to take industry into the next century. The spacious workshop and systems laboratories will meet the needs of the mining, earth-moving and heavy vehicle industries. 500 apprentices will train to use the dynamometer to test heavy-duty vehicles. There are also simulators as well as labs for hydraulic, electrical and diesel studies. The Kurri TAFE College will soon open computer studies in a joint venture with IBM. There may be further joint ventures with industry in the future.
There's a very exciting concept been raised that we're discussing at the moment with some sections of the coal industry, and that may involve a particular unit being located here at Kurri TAFE, and we would be working very closely with them.
Where's John? Jack. Jack? Not problem, then.
It's a massive stainless steel pressure vessel built by Carrington firm Varley's for a new ICI plant at Gladstone in Queensland. It's the first of 2 similar vessels to be completed in a contract that was tendered Australia-wide. They are refraction columns for the distillation plant, involving state-of-the-art techniques, and they've been made to stringent requirements. But one of the hardest parts of the job came today, when the vessel had to be secured for transport, all 21 metres of it, before setting off north via the industrial highway.
It was a speech on the plight of homeless youth by Major Stan Hindle at one of Zonta's meetings that spurred the fundraising. Zonta undertakes a worthy cause each year, and this time it was the Salvo's turn. Club President Kay Fordham presented Major Hindle with the keys to a new 15-seat passenger van. It's a project the Salvation Army has been working toward for some time, but with an ever-increasing demand on finances, Zonta came to the rescue.
Well, it's a van that we've needed for 3 years and we've been trying to raise funds for the emergency work related to homeless children and the road patrols at night time to get kids off the street or get them home in their transportation and recreational activities.
Club members were rewarded with a short trip in the new van.
The Goodyear Fight Night on June the 27th at the Cardiff Workers Club is being billed as the grudge match of the decade after the controversial bout in March. Allegations of headbutts, which opened up cuts to both fighters, has fuelled the animosity. And it will be the third time that Cornet and Peavey have clashed. The former Olympian has no cause to take part in this rematch, other than living up to a promise he made after the Parramatta bout.
Now, we don't say things and don't mean it. You know, if we've got to fight him on the moon, we'll fight him on the moon. You know, it doesn't matter to us. We're still going to beat him, whether it be here or down in Sydney, so there's no problems with that.
With 27 fights and 16 professional wins under his belt, the local lad is trying hard to play down the grudge match with the undefeated Cornet.
That's what they're building as, that I don't like him. Like he's a fighter that's trying to do his best, support his family, whatever. I'm the same. It's just that I think he's an overrated fighter, and he's been fighting overseas opponents, which I could have fought and probably beat them too as well. And come the 27th, I'm just going to prove to everybody that I can beat him.
For the Cornet camp, fighting in front of Peavey's home crowd won't be easy.
It was a pretty rough fight last time. You know, he brought a lot of spectators down. They're very vocal up here. I just hope we haven't got to carry a baseball bat in the corner just to get out.
But for Peavey, the home crowd's worth plenty.
Len Collison was charged with sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl in 1984. He always maintained his innocence. His stand was vindicated when a Newcastle jury returned a verdict of not guilty. The whole process cost him more than $6,000.
In actual terms of what it's cost me up here, that just can't have a figure be put on it.
The former prison guard is one of several men who've come forward since NBN News screened a report on the victims of crime. These men say they're victims of another sort. Although found not guilty, they carry the financial and social burden of proving their innocence. And this, they say, goes well beyond the courtroom.
You'll always be, in some people's eyes, guilty, you know.
Solicitor Robert Foggo is chairman of the Newcastle Courts Committee. As one who's trod courtroom floors for 17 years, he's well aware of the costs placed on the accused, be they guilty or innocent.
Do you want me to do that? No. No. Oops. Now come on, get it.
Is to bring to Newcastle a site exclusively for the use of the under-18s. While it looks like something from outer space, Cowan Manufacturing believe it will be a saviour in the real world of emergency rescue. The recompression chamber weighs only 450 kilos and is just 2.2 metres long. That's where its advantage lies. The chamber can be easily carried by a helicopter for on-the-scene help for divers suffering from the bends.
Most of our units in Australia are large units that are based in hospitals and too big to fly away anywhere.
The American Navy has spent more than $1 million trialling an early test model. Now, after some modifications, the final chamber is ready for shipping to a base near Los Angeles. And this could just be the start, as the Americans are also looking for a further 40 chambers. Today, defence officials from Canberra inspected the unit. Tenders have been called for 11 recompression chambers for the Australian Navy. Cowan's General Manager Bob Cowan says the possible extra work is valued at around $20 million. It could mean jobs for another 40 people.
If you don't try, you don't get anywhere, so and we're out there trying all the time. If we don't get off our butts and get out there, then we go nowhere.
On that occasion, the Cats got up by 15 points after blowing the Falcons away early in the piece. It's been a problem for the young Newcastle team this year, the inability to match the opposition from the tip-off, often being 20 points down at the end of the first quarter.
Apart from the Gold Coast game where we led after the first quarter, and it makes it difficult because we're always fighting to get back into the game, whereas we'd like to be in front and put the pressure on some of the other teams for a change.
Last year, the two teams split the season one apiece, with the Falcons winning at home by 7 points. Geelong are in scintillating form at the moment due to their new import Bobby Locke and old hands such as Jimmy Bateman. The Falcons will again rely heavily on Johnson, Bullock and Lazard to provide the firepower and try to get the Falcons off the bottom of the NBL ladder. Despite the miserable year so far, morale doesn't seem to be a problem.
Well, it hasn't been hard. It's surprisingly we've got a lot of young players and they tend to take the defeats a bit easier than ourselves, I guess. We've been around too long and we need a couple of victories. But no, I think the trainings have still been good, the spirit's been good, and I feel we all feel we can, each game we can go in and feel that we can beat any team on the night.
Police were called to the BP service station at Hexham just after 4:20 this morning to find the lone attendant had been bashed and robbed. The 43-year-old victim was too shaken to give a detailed account of this morning's ordeal on camera, but he wasn't too reluctant to show the puncture wounds on his elbow, caused when one of the bandits bit him as he lay defenceless on the floor of the service station's shop. Police have recovered a stolen car, which was found abandoned in the car park of the Hexham Bowling Club shortly after the robbery. Today it was being examined for clues. Police believe 3 men took the car to the service station. While one waited at the wheel, the other 2 entered the office. The bandits donned white balaclavas and white gloves, then burst into the shop where they menaced the attendant with a sawn-off .22 rifle. Gary, who didn't wish to give his surname, told detectives he was bashed over the head with the butt of a shortened rifle and repeatedly threatened.
The offenders then forced the attendant to open a safe. They removed an amount of money and they then left the scene. It's believed that there was a third person in a motor vehicle which had been stolen earlier on that night from Raymond Terrace.
Not satisfied with the takings from the safe, the thieves then emptied Gary's wallet before one of the men grabbed him by the arm and sank his teeth into the elbow. This afternoon, Gary was going to the doctor for tests. The bandits were extremely agitated throughout the incident and police say they should not be approached.
These people are armed and dangerous. I suggest that if you do have any information that you contact police and not endeavour to take the matter into your own hands.
At Cameron Park Raceway, the Yamaha 90 go-kart titles will be run with entries expected from all over the state. BHP Australs tackle Rockdale tomorrow in the State League Soccer, while the New South Wales Women's Soccer Championships will be held at Adamstown Ovals, and the Northern Amateur Branch Junior Soccer titles will be held at various locations around Newcastle. The Ron Faraday Award will be presented at the first day's competition in the Northern District Swimming titles at East Maitland tomorrow, with the second day's events at Singleton. At Wyong, 35 teams and over 200 horses will be part of the New South Wales Polo Cross Club Championships on Saturday and Sunday. And the traditional Queen's Birthday Weekend Speedboat Regatta at Toronto is sure to supply spills and thrills.
Junior squash players from all over the Hunter region gathered at the Raymond Terrace Centre for the Hunter Valley Long Weekend Tournament, and Carrie Summerlin won the under-13 girls, Kelly Bolger the under-15s and Carly Forster the under-17s. In the boys division, Scott Kronberger was victorious in the under-13s, Damien Davenport in the under-15s, and Todd Bowden and Ricky Martin were winners of their age groups of under-17 and under-19 respectively. At the Adamstown Junior Soccer Grounds, the Northern New South Wales Women's Soccer Tournament was conducted, and the winners came from 3 separate regions. 12 teams competed over the weekend on grounds that were pretty heavy due to the recent rain, and in the seniors, Macquarie No. 2 were crowned the champions. The Central Coast played Super Soccer to take the youth title, and Newcastle's lone win came in the juniors. From these titles, teams will be chosen to contest the upcoming national championships. A magnificent regatta is being staged at the Royal Motor Yacht Club of New South Wales at Toronto, the annual Queen's Birthday Weekend Regatta, and it's one of the biggest roll-ups in years. Repeater was too good for the opposition and took out the prestigious Ken Waggett Memorial from local boat Quick Trip and Randam. In the unlimited inboard scratch event, Possessed was the first to cross the line from Maniac and Liberty. One of the feature races of the weekend is the Alan Hatherall Memorial, and it looks at this stage that it will be a tight tussle between Santina from Victoria, Valvoline and Blue Thunder. Racing recommences in the morning at 10 o'clock.
Years ago, I found the chemical composition of living organisms was a fascinating.
Yeah, well, you can do this.
You haven't got the...
You can do the sausages. I've just about run out.
The alarm was raised just after 6 o'clock when flames were noticed coming from the small house at number 17 Victory Row, right between the old railway station at Toronto and the lake shore. The property is owned by publican and former champion footballer Reg Date, who is in Queensland at the moment. The house next door, separated by less than a metre, also caught alight. The external cladding on one wall was destroyed and the flames burnt through into a lounge room. That 2-storey dwelling is owned by Lake Macquarie Council and is rented out to a single man who was not home at the time of the fire. Bystanders removed furniture, clothes and odds and ends in case it took hold, but the fire brigade managed to stop the flames spreading throughout the structure. Today, Scientific Police and the fire brigade made a detailed examination of the scene and will be compiling a report for the authorities. The cause, at this stage, is unknown.
It was a fishing weekend that turned to disaster. A group of men and a boy from Sydney's western suburbs were renting a house from the Maritime Services Board near the Coast Guard station at Swansea Heads. 2 men and the teenage boy were in this aluminium stacer runabout, while 2 other men were in the orange Savage runabout, heading towards the Swansea Bar, which separates Lake Macquarie from the Pacific Ocean. Just as they were on the bar at around 12:30, a large wave knocked one of the men out of the stacer. He screamed to nearby surfers that he couldn't swim.
There was one boat that was coming in and it got hit by a wave and threw out the first bloke. Myself and this other fellow went and got him, put him into this orange boat, and that headed straight out towards the waves.
But the Savage could not withstand the force of the breaking waves. Within seconds, it had capsized. One of the rescuers said it was just like a repeat of the fatal Ngluka accident at Port Stephens. Once the boat had flipped, the 3 were trapped inside, in the half cabin. Large waves on this notorious bar hampered attempts by surfers who rushed to their aid.
I seen one guy, he come up and started to get a bit panicky, and we just paddled over and we were yelling out, and the guy said, yeah, there's 2 other men with me. And so we knew they were under the boat, and we dove under, and we both dove under. We couldn't see nothing. All we could see was the tarpaulin and that from the boat. And luckily Jamie come across, and he dove right under and went right under the boat and dragged the first guy out. And this fella here, he revived him on the way in on the board. We were holding on to him.
It's believed one man was trapped for around 20 minutes before being rushed to Blacksmiths by a Coast Guard boat, where he was resuscitated by paramedics and flown by Westpac rescue helicopter to the Royal Newcastle Hospital.
We just did what anyone else would do and tried to find him. He seemed to be lodged up under the boat hull itself. And we managed to free him and pulled him to the top and continued with resuscitation as best as possible before we could get him in here to the paramedics.
The other 2 men were taken to Belmont Hospital. One was later transferred to Newcastle. Rescue service workers praised the quick work of surfers, but warned of the treacherous waterway.
The bar in Swansea is not to be taken lightly. It is a very dangerous bar at all times, and one should know the bar, or at least get the conditions before going across it.
The accident happened as the Maritime Services Board were carrying out a safety blitz on pleasure craft in local waters. Rebecca Skinner, NBN News.